Often we hear an argument that Hindi is our national language or Hindi should be made our national language. In this video, I will try to explain why Hindi is not our national language and why it shouldn't be. Welcome to Pravyam. Now this is Pranav and we are in lockdown part 2. To understand the idea of a national language, we must first understand different types of nations. Some nations entirely speak the same language. Making that language their national language is completely logical. Examples of such nations are Japan, Bangladesh and Austria. But remember, here I am not considering dialects, immigrant languages and local tribal cultures. But some nations have 1, 2 or 3 minority languages. Still, in such cases, the majority language can be made a national language. Examples of such nations are France, Spain and Iran. Some nations have multiple languages, but a dominant language spoken by a dominant ethnicity can make their language a national language and impose it on the others. Examples of such nations are China, Russia and the UK. While the dominant language spoken in these nations are the Han Chinese Mandarin, the Russian and English respectively, but there are other languages also spoken in these countries which are not made the national language or they don't have that importance. Such nations usually avoid calling their official language as a national language because they understand that this one language do not represent the whole of their country. In some cases, there are 2 to 3 dominant languages in one country. In such cases, all the 2 or 3 dominant languages are considered as official or national languages. Examples of such nations are Belgium, Switzerland and Canada. But there are some nations which have diverse regional languages and yet have a national language. This national language is generally a language which is equidistant from all its native speakers. Examples of such countries are difficult to find, but they are Pakistan and Indonesia. In Pakistan, every province has its own languages and the dominant languages being Punjabi, but they have made Urdu their national language, which is not the mother tongue of most of Pakistanis. In fact, Urdu is a North Indian language adopted by Pakistan because of its common Islamic identity. The other example is Indonesia. Indonesia has many languages spoken in different provinces and the most dominant language is the Javanese. Yet they have made the language Indonesian as their national language. But Indonesian itself is a dialect of Malay, which is from a language of Malaysia, and none of the Indonesians speak Indonesian language as a native tongue. Now let's come to India. Mostly multilingualistic nations make all their major languages official and have no national language, but they keep a lingua franca for official communication. Examples of these countries are India, Sri Lanka and South Africa. Hindi, being the language of Hindi belt, makes it a dominant language in India, and making Hindi the national language of India will be unjust for the other languages spoken in India, and also it will go against our concept of celebrating diversity. I hope you got my point, and that's it for now. Stay tuned to Pravyam now for more videos on history, mythology, fiction and some new concepts like these. This is Pranav signing off. Ta-da!